and she had some mouth work done, but she is going to power through this. We might have Adam kind of chime in every so often, but yeah. So just kind of the first question and how we want to get started, just based on everything that's going on, not only in the basketball world with COVID and everything being shut down, but as well as just our society as a whole. Like, how are you all handling that? Coach Hannah, if you just kind of want to start with what you're doing personally with everything going on.
Yeah, I think going back to kind of where it was supposed to be spring break turned into coronavirus and end of the season in school and all of that. It was kind of trying to find some type of routine and a way to stay engaged with our players. And then obviously going into everything in the past couple of weeks with what's been going on in the United States is now just trying to be a support system for your players and let you know that you're there for them.
Definitely, definitely. Coach L, how about you?
Yeah, really just taking it one day at a time. At the high school level, we completely shut down, went to virtual teaching. So, on top of coaching, I do teach 5 classes. So, trying to switch to virtual gear, get in contact with all 120 of my kids, and being able to talk to the players as well, with my AAU team and my high school team. Trying to find a system of my own, get into a routine. And so just one day at a time doing that. Now that the school year just ended, it's really just been getting into a system of trying to find other things to do, other ways to learn, work out, and keep myself from going crazy in quarantine.
Counting down to the
Definitely,
next season,
definitely.
right?
What'd you say?
Counting down until the next season, right?
Yes.
Definitely, definitely. Also, Coach L, how are you guys able to like have Zoom meetings with your teams? I know college, it's kind of like you go to a school, to play there, but is that an aspect like with you guys and your team?
It was. So when school was going on, we got back from spring break and we were doing virtual learning. They're allowing us to do Zoom meetings with our students as well as with our teams if we wanted to. But now I'm in Texas, and Texas has basically completely opened up. So we started strength and conditioning at Texas schools, a lot of them this past Monday. So the kids are back in person working out, just social distancing. But no more Zoom meetings for the kids. They're back in
Yeah,
person and working out, strength and conditioning, and in the gym. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Wow, that's actually like really cool. Do you think it's been like positive for them and good for them to have that community back?
I think so. I think it gave them more sense of their consistency that they're used to, instead of just being in the house and talking to everybody on the phone. Now even though they can't run up and touch each other or play defense on one another, they can still be back in the gym and back in the same place, and getting to see their coach's face again, which means a lot to some of them uh, who are home alone, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I can only imagine. Coach Carter, how about you? How are you kind of doing everything right now?
From like a personal standpoint and like a team standpoint, like just making sure I'm checking with my friends and family a lot, checking with my players, because everyone's mental state is it can be anywhere. Like some people are doing great with this, some people are having different struggles with both COVID and the social injustices that are going on. So the biggest thing, I'm just trying to be like a good listener and just trying to be supportive and like listen to the issues that are going on in their personal lives. And just try to be supportive, kind of like what Hannah was saying, just be supportive of what they're going through. And then we've been having like the Zoom team meetings. Our team is like very close knit. So just trying to find different creative ways to do bonding exercises through Zoom. And I mean, our staff has been great about just being on the same page with everything. And just we communicate with one another about how different players are doing and who needs special attention or who needs what kinds of attention. So that's been like kind of our plan of attack and mine personal as well.
Definitely. With even just like to just speak on that, you being in the assistant coaching role, what is? Like, are you able to still kind of have that different type of relationship with your kids during this, or is it kind of you just meet with them on Zoom with everybody?
It's we're still having like special relationships, of course, and it's just different though, because now it's like, all right, everyone was watching Netflix, so what do we watch on Netflix? So we went through the Outer Banks phase. We went through the what was the one where they're like robbing a bank? Our
Money.
team loved that one. Yeah, Money Heist. Our team loved Money Heist. Like our team, like, you know, just seeing what everyone's favorite shows are, taking in those recommendations. And then more people are on TikTok right now. So I've learned a lot about TikTok and like just sending the funny stuff to one another. So like, you know, keeping it light, and there were some jokes. And then also like just finding different ways to relate to them. And I think something that's helped me, and I don't know if I've been like perfect at it, but I feel like I'm having some success, is like sharing some of my vulnerabilities too. I haven't felt safe getting back to Indianapolis, Indiana yet. So I haven't been back home yet. And like, you know, I don't want to go home to my parents where, you know, they're in that age where they might be more susceptible to having more issues with COVID. So like just being open with them, like, hey guys, I miss my family. You know, that's how I'm struggling. And then maybe that opens some doors for them to tell me like, oh, I miss my friends, or my parents are driving me crazy. And just trying to open that pathway so that they feel comfortable like being vulnerable with me as well. And then we can understand where each other's coming from, because I think just talking and listening like does a lot for one another.
Absolutely. I think listening has been an emphasis for me, especially just what I've tried to tell people as well. I think I've listened a lot, like my first year out of college, just sitting back and taking in everything. But just kind of to open up the first real coaching question to everybody, just how are you guys able to really just dive into what different positions you have? Like we have a head coach on here, we have an assistant, we have an assistant high school, but just what is some different ways that you've been able to, when there's not COVID and you're actually coaching, just really like buy into what's going on and like be the best at your position, if that makes sense.
You wanting anybody to start?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You were asking just when we're in a normal routine about, you know, what, tell me again exactly what you're asking.
So basically just like what are your like main focuses when you're in your job and you're actually coaching and at like the different levels of being a head coach. Sorry, that was totally on me. Like being a head coach, being an assistant, being at the high school level, coaching boys, like things like that, kind of when we're not in COVID.
Right. So yeah, if this wasn't going on right now, what would we be doing?
Sure. Yeah. That's perfect.
Okay, got it. So I think just for me, you know, we actually just finished up with recruiting, but typically junior colleges, you know, we might even be recruiting into the summer. This is where we would start, you know, looking at having camps, and then seeing what recruiting you're going to do in July, and then hopefully bringing your team back in July. And that's something that we're not able to do because of COVID this time. So we're hoping to bring our kids in 2 weeks early in August this time around. So, you know, but just being in that routine and even being in the office and things like that, I mean, that's what's been really, I think, disrupted by, you know, by the pandemic, and just getting, you know, everybody completely out of their comfort zone and doing everything. You know, it's so cool that we have these technologies, we're able to connect with so many people via Zoom, but I think, you know, everybody's probably, you know, ready, at least with their team, to get back in face to face and be able to really have real conversations with people and get back in the swing of things. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. There's no right answer, right or wrong, so you're good.
I'll pick up where she left off. This time of year, really, we're getting right back into our off season. So we are lifting and conditioning. So we have 2 hours of lifting and conditioning, and then we have basketball. So during the day, we'll get the kids, we'll lift, run out on the football field, and then in the gym, as a staff, we've already gone over what it is that we want to implement in the off season, and we start working on those strategies. It's kind of similar to college, how they have individuals, which is great. They literally just let us start this. Last year was the first year that we were able to do sport specific training, which is being able to be on the court during the summertime. And so now we get to be with the kids in the gym for 2 hours a week, so we can split it up however we want to, Monday through Thursday. So just basically seeing what worked, seeing what we want to change, and then little by little implementing it with the kids on the court. So getting to see them 4 days a week in the summertime is great. But at this time of year, that's what we're, really doing, putting in the fundamentals, putting in the details so that we're building on it in these 7 weeks that we have.
For us, normally if we didn't have this situation going on right now, our kids we usually have the whole team here for the second summer session. And for first summer session, we'll have like a couple kids, just kind of depending on like who needs what class wise, and from an academic standpoint. So right now it'd be first summer session. And ideally we would love to be getting ready for camps right now and having a bunch of kids on campus and having our recruits on campus, and getting those interactions with our kids. And then we'd also be planning for July. So like right now it's a little bit different for us. We can't go recruit this July. So that's definitely different. And I know some teams are starting to live stream workouts. So we're starting to navigate that and trying to figure out, who's got different schedules and who's live streaming stuff, and definitely watching more film right now. But ideally, like, we would love to be having kids on our campus and getting ready to get to know them better, get to know recruits better, get to know their coaches better. And then planning where we're going to go in July. So that would normally be our focus, and just working together as a staff to try to make sure everyone has what they need. And that's just a big thing with our staff in general, just whether it's summer camps or trying to organize recruiting or stuff during the year, just like you have your responsibilities, but then just try to be a helping hand and being open to helping other people too, and just be adaptable.
Absolutely. Being adaptable is what I'm going to take from that with all of this, for sure. Just in coaching in general, it's good to have, but I think this is really making people figure it out for sure.
So another question we have for you guys is, obviously you're all three at different levels, but at every level, relationships are a huge part of basketball. So could you talk about just how you cultivate genuine relationships with other coaches, but also with your players? Obviously we have 2 assistants. So how do you guys cultivate those relationships with your players? And then Coach Hayden, as a head coach, how do you cultivate those relationships?
Sure. You want me to go? So first I would say, cultivating relationships with other coaches, obviously regardless of your position, your network is everything. So I think just like making sure that you're having like genuine interactions with people. I've seen a few people that have even logged in on this before we got started, that I've been, coaches that I really respect. I saw Carrie Rediker logged in on here, and it's just like, that's somebody that I recruited from her when I was at the 4-year level at Harris Stowe. And then now being at the junior college level, is somebody that I play against, but that I've always looked at as a mentor. And I've kind of been on both sides, of it with her. But just being able to have relationships like that, people, coaches that you see that they do things the right way. Obviously, you want mentors that win, but just looking at how they run their program and how they handle themselves, a lot of time reach out to those coaches, because most of the time they're willing to, to at least have a conversation with you, or maybe kind of be a mentor for you. And that's something that's been big for me. As far as relationships with your players, I think really just being a genuine person. I think it starts in the recruiting process when you reach out to these kids and you're getting to know them, and you're telling their families and their parents that you're going to be the one to take care of them. You can't let that go by the wayside whenever they get on campus. When they sign on the dotted line, it's not like, all right, game over, now you're on campus and you're mine. And it's now whenever they get on campus, then, you're able to get to know them even more, and just having, genuine conversations with them and not making it just all about basketball. Something that I pride myself on is, the fact that whenever we're in practice, I'm very hard on my kids. I think our practices are really intense and things like that. But when practice is over, they're in my office joking around. We're talking about movies or something that was said in practice last week that's funny now when somebody got in trouble or whatever. And just being able to like come back down to earth and really be in remembering, like these are young kids. They're going to make mistakes or they're going to make us mad at times or whatever it is. But being able to come back down and just have real conversations with them. And, for me, that's how it just helped me build my relationships with them so much.
Great.
I will say that I was recruited by a lot of different coaches, a lot of different levels. And one thing about that was I kept those contacts over the years with all those coaches. And even though I didn't choose to go to their schools, when I had the opportunity, I did, let them know before I signed with that other school. And then when I coached, because I coached college for 4 years. So when I coached on the Division II level and at the Division I level, I was able to make a lot of different contacts, be it for who I was working with, who I happened to be hanging out with during recruiting, or, at the Final Fours. But the one biggest thing I would say is that, you go out of your way to not burn any bridges. Doesn't matter how you feel in the moment, whatever's going on, a decision that someone made, don't burn a bridge. Be mature about the situation, and you'll never know when that person is going to come back, and you're going to need that relationship to go somewhere or do something that you want. So that was one thing that I made sure to never do, to keep all my contacts no matter the situation. And then with my kids, my relationships is different for me now because my relationship with the players when I coached at University of Houston is completely different than the players I have now, because I coached girls college for 4 years, and now this is my 3rd year coaching boys. And so I'm not as close with my players as I would be or as I was with my college players, because one, they're boys, and so I draw that line, and they're even younger and less mature than my college girls were. So there's a strict line that I have to have with them. But I think our relationship is built off of a mutual respect. They have a respect for me because of my resume, my playing background, and the fact that I was a state champion in this state, and they want to do that same thing. And so we have a mutual respect. And then we can sit and laugh and joke. We do team bonding activities always together. So even though I can pull kids to the side and talk to them, and they know why I'm getting on them, because I'll tell them why. I let them know I'm on you all the time, but it's because of what it is that I'm trying to get out of you. So really not always telling them the bad. When I tell them the bad, I tell them why I'm giving them the bad. I don't just tell them the bad and leave it there, So being able to really explain the why to kids, I really think wins them over in the long run and helps with your relationship. Because a lot of times we're in the moment, we just tell them things and we never tell them why. And, we're just trying to get our point across. But when you do take the time to explain to them why you did the things you did, or why you said something that you said, it really makes them appreciate you more.
That's like such a good answer. It's hard to follow. No, but like Coach Hannah said and Coach Monsa said, just like with networking, I think it's important that you always hold good relationships and be cordial with everyone, even if things don't go as you expect them to go, or maybe there's some type of confrontation there or misunderstanding. Find a way to mend that bridge for sure. And then like just work hard, like be caught doing good work and be a good person. I think like some of the best relationships I've made have been out recruiting. And I've met some genuine friends and good mentors out recruiting. And it's like, yes, you definitely need to watch a game and you can't be talking too much, but there are times when like there's breaks in the games where you can make conversation with other coaches and like you get to know people on a deeper level. And the mentors I've met through recruiting, and that's been awesome for me. And a lot of it's because like they recognize when you work hard, and they recognize like how you're evaluating people and things like that, how you talk the game, how you talk to players. And so I think just get caught doing the right thing, you know, and you're not looking for, you're not like, oh shoot, Coach Hannah's watching me. Let me pretend to take notes. Like, just do the right thing when no one's watching, and you know, the right people will be attracted to you by that. And then with my player relationships, similar to what the other two coaches said, you know, just be open, be willing to have conversations, be genuine, be sincere. And ways that we do that at Sam Houston State is like, you know, we'll go on small lunch dates, like with groups of 2 or 3 players at a time. And we won't talk about basketball. It's all like what's going on in life, how are their families doing, how's class, how's their pets, how are their dogs, all that stuff. And, you know, we can pay for occasional meals sometimes. So we'll do that sometimes. And sometimes like we'll go over and go eat in the cafeteria with them. We'll go eat the food they eat. Like we'll go be in their surrounding and see like, you know, what food lines do you guys like to get? Who are your friends? Who sits at that table? And just kind of come down to their level and understand where they're coming from. So then when we do cross our lines to the court, we've developed that trust. We've developed that stronger sense of care. And I know maybe it sounds cliche, but it's so true. They want to know how much you care, not how much you know. And then when they know how much you care, they'll care about what you know.
That's really, really good. Thank you, all of you guys. Kind of going into more direct questions, Coach Hayden, could you talk about the number one job of a head coach?
Sure. So, you know, I think that my number one job or my goal at the beginning of each season is trying to get my team and everybody associated with it, you know, as far as staff, managers, all of my players, to really just collectively buy into the same vision, you know, and a common purpose. You know, at Moberly, we like to call it our culture of excellence. It's something that we talk about all the time. But the beginning of the year, you know, we want to lay out our program standards and our values and, you know, try to transform just a group of people from all over the country really into a unit, you know. Then in this year, our mantra was move as one, that, you know, that everybody is bought into the same thing. And I think, you know, everybody's kind of familiar with it in the past couple of years with the transfer portal and things like that. As our society gets more and more individualistic, it gets harder and harder to get kids to buy in to something that's bigger than themselves just because it's a team and that's what they're supposed to do. Right. They have to really believe in it. They have to really be excited about it. They have to really feel drawn to it. You know, so that's just something that we try to cultivate. And I feel like, you know, it's my job to kind of create that atmosphere and foster that and get something that they all want to believe in and that they can all be excited about. And I think that if you can do that, then you can accomplish all the other things that we talk about as coaches, as far as teaching life lessons and life skill through sport. You know, doing what you need to do in the classroom, you know, making sure that they're successful academically, you know, just developing them as people. And then, of course, you know, on the basketball court, competing at a high level, right, and winning. And I just think all of those things start with making sure that everybody is collectively bought in and on the same page. And it's getting harder and harder. It's easier said than done. But I think that if you spend time on that at the beginning of the year, and again, really lay out your vision for the program, and you do a good job, and you are essentially selling the kids on it, right? Like, this is what we all need to be successful. And I think that if you do a good job with that, then it can obviously just lead to so much success down the road for your team, both on and off the court. So I think for a head coach, that is one of the most important things that you can do.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. Even to Coach L and Coach Kira, if you guys could just talk about like what complements a head coach like Coach Hannah. So just kind of some good things that you focus on for what makes a good assistant coach.
I think a good assistant coach can not only enforce what the head coach wants, but basically get the team to buy in without sounding exactly like the head coach. Nobody wants to hear two head coaches. And that's the reality. No player wants to hear the same thing that the head coach just said come out of your mouth. But you have to be smart enough to get the same message across without sounding like the head coach. But as long as you're on the same page, and really be trustworthy and loyal to them, you know, with what you're doing, trying to make their job easier, I think that, you'll be a good assistant coach. But it's just really keeping that consistency. You can't be inconsistent. You can't be on a different page than your head coach. And so you're all riding that same boat together. You can't be paddling in a different direction.
I definitely agree with that too. Like you have to defend your team's culture as an assistant coach. And like while we have to have good relationships with the players and be able to hear them vent, you never can throw the head coach under the bus. Like, that's our program. You have to defend our culture and be able to articulate in a way that they can kind of understand that while still managing that balance with your players. And then I think also like you have to serve your head coach. You want to serve the program, serve your head coach, serve the players. I think just serve. Be a servant. And what that means to me is like, do my responsibilities because, each assistant's been given certain responsibilities. So do those responsibilities, but anticipate what can happen beyond those responsibilities. There's always something that's going to come up. I mean, this year we were making practice jerseys out of we had an art project going on. We were making felt numbers and pinning them to jerseys and, no one told me, you don't read a coach's book and say you're going to do arts and crafts, but no, we do arts and crafts all the time. And that's just called you just have to be a problem solver. And the other thing is don't think you're too good for any job. I have a master's degree and I do arts and crafts. That's fine. If that's what we need to do today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do arts and crafts. If I need to go help the managers tape the floor, no problem. I'll go tape the floor. If I need to go have a tougher conversation maybe with our SID or be a liaison in another department and put on my big girl pants, I got to go do that. So I think, again, adaptable is just a big word for me. Be adaptable, be a servant, and be open-minded in what your responsibilities are. You're never too good to do anything.
I love that. Coach John Wooden, that's my favorite quote. I have it put up in my room, make each day your masterpiece. No role is too small. So I totally agree. Coach L, just kind of moving into, obviously you're an assistant coach at the high school level. How are you preparing your student athletes to, play at the next level? Or, maybe if they're not going to pursue a collegiate career, how are you preparing them for, the real world?
So the biggest thing with me, and I let my kids know early on, is that if you have the mental toughness to get through an entire season, you have the mental toughness to be prepared in life. So I don't preach to them that y'all are going to all go and be Division I athletes or that you're going to go and play college basketball, because that is not the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that you're going to have to find something to be successful at in life. And if this and playing the game of basketball is too much for you, then you're going to be struggling in life, because those are the lessons that we teach in the program. Just the day-to-day schedule at the high school level, we practice twice a day. So, they go to class for part of the day. They are expected to come in the middle of the day and give everything they have. And then they go back to class and they're expected to come back and give everything they have again. So, they work for about 3 hours a day in workouts at the high school level here in Texas. And it's, for some students, it's more strenuous than others because, they came from middle school and they, they weren't expecting to be asked to do so much. They're not used to the discipline that we demand. They're not used to the things that we ask for them in the classroom. But really, the standard that we set in the program is built for them to develop the mental toughness, to develop the self-discipline that they're going to need to be successful in life. So really just beating them over the head with that idea. I'm not tough on you because I want you to go play college basketball. I'm tough on you because I want you to get to your first semester of college and not want to drop out because you think it's too hard. Because if we haven't challenged you, if we haven't showed you what hard is, then you're going to have a hard time in life, because it's going to be even harder than this. So really just getting them to understand what hard work is.
Absolutely. The mental toughness aspect of that, just the way you just talked about it as not just be tough, but just telling them to just, if you get through a season, you can get to college. But even for the coaches that are coaching college, how then do you guys prepare them to stay in college and to continue? Coach Hannah, if you just want to speak on, you talked about you coached at a 4-year university, and now obviously you're at the junior college level, but how did you use that experience at the 4-year to really help develop your players at the 2-year to then be able to make that same kind of transition that obviously is a little easier, but also can still have challenges, but kind of how do you prepare them for that jump as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I'm really grateful for my time at the 4-year level, because, you know, now to be able to come back to junior college, I mean, we try to run our program like a 4-year program, you know, and we try to simulate that in our approach to pretty much everything that we do. You know, from whenever they get on campus to how we're approaching preseason, with strength and conditioning, you know, with doing the individual, you know, the position work, the skill work like they do at Division I, Division II. You know, all levels, you know, with the standards that we set for the classroom, you know, again, like I'm fortunate, you know, on my staff, I have somebody that's been at the Division I level, and then I have one of my former players that played for me at the NAI level, you know, so we've all kind of been there and we know what it looks like and we know what it takes. So we just try to really uphold those standards, you know, again, academically. So like I did whenever I was a Division I assistant. We have our team split up into academic groups between myself and my 2 assistants that meet with us on a weekly basis. And, you know, we're just able to get updates and make sure that, you know, not only are we holding them accountable, but, you know, just we're able to catch anything early, you know, if we need to address any concerns. You know, then back to the basketball side, we film practice. We're going to watch that as a team and individually. Our scouting reports are really in depth. So we're giving out, you know, a hard copy. We're watching a film edit. We're going over things on the floor. And again, we're just trying to simulate it. And like one thing when I first got to the JUCO level, somebody told me was like, don't let JUCO make you a JUCO coach. And he was a JUCO coach himself, so he didn't necessarily mean like the negative connotation. He was just going off of how some people's perception is, right? Is that at JUCO we just roll the ball out and we just hoop and there's no structure and things like that. And I will say there's a lot of really good coaches at junior college, so it's definitely not like that across the board, but we know how that goes. You know, it's just a few places that have done it like that in the past or whatever, kind of give everybody that misconception. But that's just, you know, we've tried to go completely opposite of that. So again, just with how we approach everything, I want to make sure that anything that our kids are going to see at the 4-year level that they've already experienced here at Moberly, and they've already had those expectations. I mean, to me, it would be embarrassing for one of my players to go to the 4-year level and not be able to be on time for class, or not be doing what they're supposed to be doing in study hall, or not have good practice habits, and not understand what it means to work hard, or not know how to do a scouting report and how to apply that and watch film and be able to apply that as well. So we try to hit it from every single angle. You know, the one thing about junior college, obviously there's less resources. So we are the strength coach, and we are, you know, we're really fortunate at Moberly to have an academic advisor, but we're doing a lot of that stuff too. So, you know, it takes, you know, it definitely takes all of us. And I think that, you know, my staff does a really good job, but we just try to simulate the same experience and try to prepare them the absolute best way that we can. So that whenever they move on, that it's seamless. Like I want to tell them now it's only left on you, right? To make good decisions and do the right things and then show up and play well. So.
That's good. Thank you. Coach Kira, you know, you also had experience at the D2 level and at the JUCO level as well, before you went to Milwaukee, and now you're at Sam Houston. So at Missouri S&T, you were the lone assistant. So I read up on, you had a lot of different roles, you know, your hands were in a ton of different facets. So could you talk about how that prepared you to move up to the D1 level?
It gave me great perspective. And, you know, I'll be honest, when I first went to Division I level, I didn't understand how open you had to be so I didn't know we were going to do craft projects. I keep coming back to that because like you just don't think you would, and that's the first thing that comes to mind of something different that you'd have to do. You know, so I think I think that started getting my thought process in that mindset of like, you're going to do different things. And so like being the only assistant coach I had a chance to do at both Wabash and Missouri S&T, I got to do administrative things. I got to be very involved with stuff that the head coach has to do and make decisions on. At both of those schools, you don't have all full ride scholarships. So you have to kind of divide them up a little bit. You have to take into consideration their academics when you're recruiting. Maybe you're in-state players versus out-of-state players, or maybe there's waivers for certain things. So being exposed to that, because like at the Division I level, you don't have those issues. But at the same time, if I didn't coach at those other levels, I wouldn't have that knowledge, and my mindset wouldn't be that open or that creative on how you have to go about things. I think it also makes you a better recruiter too, because if you can recruit at those levels with, like, you know, what Coach Hayden's saying, with less resources, if you can do more with less, it's going to just make you a better coach. And you learn how to be a problem solver. So I got my hand in everything. Like you said, I'm not saying I was good at everything. I definitely wasn't. But I got to learn what I liked, what I didn't like. And then, you know, as you go up to the Division I level, your responsibilities are a little bit more specified. And so right now at Sam Houston State, I'm in charge of social media is one of my big responsibilities. I work with the SIDs and like our marketing department on different things with our branding and how we market our program. I work with the guards for position work. We split up scouts, of course. I do recruiting. So those are probably my main responsibilities. And like, you know, through having my hand in everything, I kind of learned like, okay, I can do social media. I'm kind of good at that. I have a creative knack for that. And just you kind of discover yourself in that sense. And then you learn about what it takes to really run a program. So I mean, that's just a touch base on it. We could like write a book about what you learned as a JUCO coach and as a D2 assistant. But I mean, definitely great experiences and great opportunities. I think, sorry, one more thing, get a little bit long on this. Have like an opportunity mindset. You know, you can have one mindset like, oh my God, I don't get paid any money. I'm doing all this stuff. Or you can say like, oh my gosh, I get the opportunities to do this. I get to make all these decisions. Like, why would someone allow me, like being 24 years old, to make all these decisions? Are they crazy? But, you know, you get those opportunities and you have to make the most of them.
Opportunity mindset, that's huge. Even just like to the mental toughness, everything. I think there's so many different angles to approach things. That was awesome. Thank you, Coach. Coach L, one thing that I really wanted to touch on before we kind of open up to viewer questions as those kind of start piling in, but how is your experience coaching boys? And just if you could speak on the difference of just kind of like the playing wise coaching, not necessarily like the relationships, but is there a difference the way you kind of like addressed your college like women versus kind of how you address the game for the boys side?
Well, the biggest difference is the level. So from college to high school, obviously is a big jump in maturity level and IQ. And so that's really how you have to think about it. We, at the college level, and working with girls, and, you know, the way that we do scouting reports at the college level, we know so much information, we implement so much information. But then at the high school level, I can still be that in depth with my information. I just can't give it to the kids. They can barely, you know, they can't handle it. And the things that I teach, I have to draw back and only give them a spoonful so they can kind of understand it. I think the one thing that does give me the upper hand is that I have coached girls, and most men's coaches have not coached girls. So they don't fully realize how detail oriented we are with girls. Girls ask a lot more questions. They're much more in depth, and guys just want to play, and they, you know, boys, they just want to play. And so they rush, and girls are more fundamental. And because they don't have the same athletic ability at the age that the boys do, they learn how to do things differently and sometimes more efficiently and more fundamentally. And boys don't know those things. So you're teaching them fundamental things to improve their game. And it takes a little bit more for them to understand why it's important, because they're so used to just taking advantage of things athletically. So being detail oriented, like I am, that I bring from the college level, when I break that down on the high school level and with the boys, it really helps them, and it's eye opening because they have not learned in that way before. They are not used to learning in that fashion. I'd say the good thing about both of those levels are that the speed of the game is a little bit similar. It's not as if the boys are drastically slower. They play at a pace that is similar to the pace of the college women's game. So I still feel comfortable. If I would have moved down to a level where I felt like the game was too slow and my mind's moving way faster than they're playing, then I'd probably be, upset. But it's fun. They are very receptive, and because they watch a lot of basketball. And that's one thing, when I was coaching girls, we're begging them to watch the game. Boys watch the game, even if they watch the wrong kind, because they want to watch the NBA all the time and they need to be watching the college game, but they watch it and they want to imitate everything they watch. So if I send them a YouTube clip of somebody, or if I just tell them, a player that I want them to watch, they're going to get on there and they're going to sit there and watch exactly what I asked them to watch, because they do love to sit there and watch the game. But they're a lot more similar than people think. I think, on the outside, we were like, oh my goodness, and I didn't choose it. I was asked to do it. So it's not like it's something that I sought out. I just, had an opportunity mindset and somebody asked me to do it and I said, yeah. So jumping into it, you're kind of a chameleon, kind of like we talked about being assistant coach. When you're the only assistant coach, I was the only assistant coach at Division II level my first year. You get thrown in the fire and you figure out what happens. And that's, what I did being in there. Learning your players is going to be the same at every level. The one thing that I think, young coaches or any coach should really look into is understanding the behavior of your athletes. I have a master's degree in human resource development, and one thing we look at big time is our leadership, and how we understand the people that we're leading. And so when we've gone through personality tests and behavioral assessments and everything, and because I've studied it, I'm able to know exactly how to deal with each person. I know what buttons I can press and which buttons I can't press. And I spend that time learning them, paying attention to what they do on and off the floor, so that I can coach them. I can coach some harder than I can coach others, but I know exactly who I can speak to in a certain way on the floor, who has that mentality on the floor that can handle it, and who I have to wait until after practice to speak to. That's the biggest thing. I know everyone thinks on the surface girls are just way more emotional, but they have no idea that boys are just the same. Their egos are just bigger. That's the only thing. So really get to understand your players. Sometimes it takes team bonding off the floor to get that done. But if you're understanding them, it doesn't matter who you're coaching, you're still going to be able to get across to them.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's a good perspective. We're going to open up into viewer questions. So we ask that before you ask your question, introduce yourself, your name, and where you're from, currently coaching at. So Coach Shannon, you can go first.
Hey, I'm Shannon Mathis. I'm currently coaching freshman girls basketball at Bishop Lynch High School in Dallas. My question is for Coach L. I saw that you're part of the SO program with WBCA. How did that prepare you? I did that in 2019. So how do you feel like that prepared you for your grad assistant spot?
I think it was, first of all, it was just an awesome experience. I absolutely loved it. So for those of you who don't know what the SO program is, it is a program for senior athletes in women's basketball. And it's basically during the same time as the WBCA convention. And we sit and listen to different speakers. and so forth. I think one of the biggest impacts it had on me was just realizing how many different perspectives there were, like listening to Coach McCallie speak from Duke, and then going over to the middle school to play with the kids outside on the blacktop, just seeing all these different things going on and listening and speaking to coaches. One, it helped me reconnect with a lot of different people that I hadn't seen in years, since being recruited. And that just opened up my, I guess, job opportunities. I was receiving emails as soon as I got home from the people who saw me sitting in the audience during the SO program, listening to them speak. So it was great because once I got home, I actually had a choice, in the different schools that were offering me grad assistantships. But I took a Division II position instead of a graduate assistant position when I came out, and I was making absolutely zero money, and I was fine with that. But I wanted to be thrown in the fire. I wanted to figure out how to do everything, and that was to be the only assistant coach. And so that opportunity stuck out to me more. The one thing I will say about when people are looking to hire you is you want to be just as in depth as you were when you were being recruited to play. You want to know how many people are there to play your spot. You want to know where you're going, what the environment is like, because just the same way these kids are jumping on the transfer portal is the same way when you get to a program and you're playing for a coach you don't like and working for a coach you don't like, you're going to end up wanting to leave. So even though I was in that program, I had a lot of different opportunities coming at me. I wanted to be just as thorough, trying to choose what was going to be best and the best fit for me, not just the popular school or the biggest school. Because for me, I always see things as I want to be somewhere where I can have the most impact and the most change. That was one of the reasons why I decided to play at a mid-major school. I knew that the Big East schools that were recruiting me were going to be fine just without me. I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to actually make a difference. And so that's what I was thinking when I was looking at my opportunities. Can I make a difference here, and how much can I learn? I think if we're truly students of the game, we're going to continue learning as we get older. And you really want to take into account, how much can I learn from this person that I'm about to go work for?
Definitely. That answer, I feel like, should be the Rising Coaches pitch. I'm going to throw a plug right there. If you're not a member, look into it, because that's literally what we're about. Just helping coaches to be good coaches and kind of, figure out and go through the different realms. It's like recruiting all over again, except for you're an adult now. So definitely that was a great answer. Coach Thompson, if you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question, it's all you.
Thank you, guys. This is Coach Thompson from Monroe College in the Bronx. My question is for Coach Carter. I wanted to ask Coach Carter, I looked at your bio prior to the call, and you played at JUCO, and then you played at Division I, and you have experience coaching at every level. And in this year, you were able to coach 3 all-conference players in your first year at Sam Houston. My question for you is, with all the experience you've had at the different levels and your ability to relate to players, how have you been able to do such a great job recruiting and then also training high-level athletes?
That was like a loaded, flattering question. I appreciate that. I think my experiences have definitely helped me a lot just as a player first. From being a JUCO player, sometimes people look down on JUCO players, and obviously I don't, because I was a JUCO player. And my teammates, and JUCO is a special place. If you've been to JUCO, it's a special place. I was there for one year, but like I have friends that are teammates now, and like they've got children. I check in with them, so that just gave me a great perspective of what junior college was. And then going on to a Division I school. So right now at Sam Houston State, we recruit a lot of junior college players just because it fits our style a lot. And trying to get a program turned around, our head coach, you know, thought it was good for us to get a lot of junior college players. And so as a staff, we're all on board with that. And so for me personally, I can relate to junior college players, and everyone has a different story. So, and just understand that everyone has a different story, and finding out what their story is and finding out kind of what makes them tick, what motivates them, and figuring out like how can our staff and Sam Houston State fit their needs and what they want. Was that the whole question? I feel like there's a couple parts there.
Yeah, I was just curious with all that experience, how you're able to in your first year take all that together and then be able to produce 3 all conference players, you know, with your background and, you know, obviously working with these athletes.
Well, as an assistant coach, like it definitely wasn't all me. You know, I'm just a little helper there. You know, Coach Justice has a great system in place. You know, we run dribble drive, and it's a system that we recruit players that fit that system, and it's very up tempo. So it's a system in which a lot of people can be successful in. And it's definitely about the fit, you know, bringing in those kids there, and then just kind of like we discussed earlier, reinforcing the head coach's culture, and what we want to be about, and then using our relationships with the individuals to make sure that they can fit and fulfill their roles that we have for the system.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, great question, Coach Thompson. Thank you. Coach Destiny, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hey, how are you guys? Good. So Coach Ramsey, Destiny, Coach Destiny, whatever you want to say. I coached for 2 years at Illinois Central College, JUCO, shout out, under Carrie Redeker, played for her as well. I am now going to be the GA. It is official. I have signed on the dotted line to UIS, where I also played 2 years after JUCO. So I went from D2 JUCO to D2 NCAA. So I am excited for that. And I actually, well, when I was playing, Coach Hannah at Moberly wasn't there, but I have coached against her now that I was coaching with Coach Redeker, and I do fully respect her game and the way she coaches and stuff. So my question was, when she said it's harder to basically cultivate this culture and some of these kids nowadays, and I'm trying to, I wonder, in your perspective, Coach, why do you feel like that is? Why is it harder to create that culture or to cultivate this buy-in type system? And I have seen it too. So what do you feel like from your point of view is the biggest challenge with kids and them understanding the buy-in piece of things at the college level?
Yeah. You know, I think that there's a few factors that play into it, something that Kira touched on earlier. Or it might've been Coach Monta. Somebody was like, you have to explain why, right? Like, this is not the generation where it's just like, do it because I said so and with no further explanation, right? Like they want to have an understanding behind it. And I just think that kind of goes into the same thing is it's not just good enough almost to, you're a part of a team, you're part of something bigger than yourself. So just accept your role because that's what you're supposed to do because you're on a team. I just feel like that it's been a shift in that. You know, and now I just think it's more important, and it can still be done. You know, like you see these teams with great cultures, but I think that those, you know, it's just been established that there's something that they're so excited to be a part of. You know, it's not going to be just because I'm showing up and I'm getting my gear and I get to go to practice and stuff that I'm just happy to be here if I don't have the role that I want, which obviously most of the time going to college basketball, their role is going to change so much, you know, so getting them, I think being able to get them to buy into that. And then we could go, you know, we could get into the social media and just, and people in their ear at home. And, you know, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, and everybody, you know, we're just at a point, I think, you know, touching on social media, they do everything for likes and recognition and retweets and all that kind of stuff, right? Because they like people telling them how good they are. So a lot of times whenever you get to college and then you don't hear that a lot, I think that if you don't have a really good culture to fall back on, and you don't have your other kids saying the right things, then I think that's where we're starting to see like so many transfers or kids that are unhappy and things like that. I think that those are just some of the obstacles that we're looking at. Is just, I think it's different. You know, I mean, I'm only 28 years old, but it's different from whenever I was playing, you know, just 8 years ago. Like we didn't have, you know, I mean, there social media existed, but it didn't have the same pull that it has now with the kids, and not as many things were on there. And, you know, I mean, now, you know, kids, they'll put up a clip, a clip of their highlight online and things like that. And kids don't even want to be, you know, seen on the clip if they're on the bench, you know, and you see the kids that aren't up celebrating, and then that can be exposed and things like that. So I just think that there's a lot of like outside influences that are making it more difficult. I still think it can be done, but I think you have to be more intentional with building your culture and what you want it to look like, and being honest with kids, and you know, and building those relationships with the kids on the end of your bench, and just making sure that you're really going out of your way to do that. But that to me, I think are the factors that I've identified anyways, and what is probably making it more hard for coaches.
Absolutely. I think even like I've just played 2 years ago and it's completely different. I'm like, what? So that was a really great answer. Coach Rediker, if you would like to unmute and ask your question, you can go for that. Do we have Coach on here still?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Am I
there she
there?
is. Okay. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good. You're good. Sorry about that.
Talking about technology, I'm a little slow. But I just want to know, you know, obviously the COVID is unlike anything any of us have ever seen, but just curious, and you ladies are a lot younger than me, but I would like to know what your biggest challenge has been so far as a coach, no matter where you were, and then how did you overcome that challenge?
I think sometimes it's hard to manage recruiting decisions. And it's like when I recruit, like I'm genuinely trying to get to know kids, and like I form like genuine bonds with them. But then there is like the business aspect, and you have to worry about like the fit of your program and what's best for your program. And so there's times when you have to have really hard conversations with AU coaches, parents, and the student athlete also. And so as hard as it is, like I've had to have like really hard, honest conversations. I think that's been challenging. I think that's a topic where like, you know, some mentors have been able to help me out. And my biggest, like what I've learned from that, like what my kind of solution to that has been like, you know, just be honest, like, and be genuine. And don't say anything or promise anything that you can't deliver on or can't take back. And every time I've like been able to get through an honest, tough conversation, I've left feeling like much better about myself just as an individual, because I don't want to be out here lying and all that stuff. It just doesn't feel good in my heart. And then also, you know, you leave those conversations with respect. You know, we've had to turn kids away before, and kids have had to turn us away before, but being able to navigate those conversations with poise and respect, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest things I've learned.
I guess I'll piggyback right after you. I would say that one of my biggest challenges would be disagreeing with my head coach, you know, having a different outlook. And I think that depending on who you are, you know, and your maturity level, people handle that differently. The way I was able to handle that is understanding that there's not another me. I can't expect everyone to think in the same way that I think, you know? And so the fact that I understand that and can take myself out of that situation can allow me to look back and, you know, admit this is not my program. I serve at the pleasure of my head coach. And so therefore, if this is what they want to do, I'm going to do that. You know, I've heard from a lot of different people tell me that the thing that they struggle with the most is making tough decisions. And the one thing I would say to everyone who, you know, thinks that is the integrity of your program is the most important thing. So, when you're wrestling with what decision you should be making, you should be erring on the side of the integrity. We're not sacrificing the integrity of the program for one player. That culture, the buy-in that we want is what we're going to create. And if we create that culture well enough, then the culture will take care of itself. And the players who don't want to be there won't be there. But the decisions that we make, even though they're the toughest decisions, we need to be erring on the side of the integrity of our program and, making decisions that will uphold that culture.
I think one of the biggest challenges that I've faced is trying to find the balance whenever you have a really good team. Finding that balance as the head coach, because you're really setting the tone, right? You're setting the pulse for your team on continuing to really push them to get better, and then kind of knowing, when to give them a little bit of grace. And I think it's happened to me twice now. My first year at Harris Stowe, it was the first winning season there that they had in 10 years. Everything we did was great. Everybody was just happy. And then the second year, we had these expectations, right? Because we had already been good. And now we're coming back for year 2. People are preparing for us harder. My players had experience. And I just knew like that second year, like that was our year. We needed to win the conference. I wanted to make the national tournament. We just had all these goals. And I think, kind of as a head coach, I just think it's really challenging on kind of being able to discern like when your team needs not a break, but and kind of finding the line between the encouragement and then pushing them harder. I think even this year we had a really good team, and it was like a constant battle with myself between, okay, we're 22-4, we're on this streak, we haven't lost in forever. And I'm like, fighting it with myself. Like, I think the kids think we're getting too good. I need to be really hard on them today because I think we're getting a little too cocky. I need to bring us down. And then, then on some days, then I'd leave practice and say, dang, I might've been too hard on them today. We did just win by 25 yesterday, or whatever, and I think it's hard as the head coach because it all does fall on you. And I do try to, my assistants do a good job and we try to talk about things, but at the end of the day, when you feel like your team's success is falling on your shoulders, you never want the season to end and you think, you let up on them on the end because you finally at the end of the season because you had some success, then you let up a little bit and then maybe you didn't reach your potential. But you also don't want them to tap out because you're just constantly on them. So for me, that's been my biggest challenge as a head coach. So Carrie, if you have any advice on that, please let me know.
Well, you guys beat us by 20, so I think you have the answers.
Thank you guys for those responses. We have time for one more viewer question. Coach Robert, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashton. My question is about social media. So I know Kira talked a little bit about it, but I would love to get everybody's opinion. Is how do you personally feel about your players using social media? And what do you think is right and wrong in terms of their use? And how do you manage that either as an assistant coach or head coach?
I can start, I guess. We definitely want our players to have a voice. And that's been a big thing that we've talked about, with the racial issues that we have. They need to be able to express themselves. We do have guidelines though, we don't want them cursing on social media, don't like things that have curse words in them because on Twitter you can see who likes what. Be fully clothed, have your clothes on, don't have any bad hand gestures or facial gestures, don't do anything kind of like provocative or anything like that. So we talk about that, but other than that, we encourage them to use their voice, express themselves. And occasionally they will send us a picture, say, hey coach, can I post this picture? And, we'll say, oh yeah, that's good, or no. And kind of explain to them why. And they do a pretty good job with that. They're good kids and they're trying to understand the bigger picture, and they understand that, we're just teaching them how to market themselves, but still have an opinion and still stand firm what they believe in, but understand, there's employers out there. You do represent yourself, you represent your family, you represent us, you represent, you know, so much more than just your little Instagram picture and just a few likes. So I mean, they're really receptive to it though. So
Yeah, I don't have anything much different than what Kira just said. You know, understanding that it's obviously they're going to be on there, but just making sure that they're representing themselves, the program, their families, and that they're not posting anything that they wouldn't want anybody to see. And you used to be able to do, don't post anything that you wouldn't want your grandma to see. But my grandma must have been a lot more conservative than these new grandmas because we've had to kind of like pull back on that. So, you know, I mean, just I talked about it a few times tonight. It's just it's taken over, you know, so they are going to be on there. So I think if they are going to be on there, we will try to follow them on there, you know, and just to hold them accountable. But like you were saying, like Twitter, it didn't used to be like that. Now anything they like, it comes on the timeline. And I mean, they can just get crazy fast. So I think talking about it a lot and like laying the guidelines out there, and just making sure that that they understand. You know, I think they see how quickly things can go viral now, and it's scary. So just making sure that they understand that.
Yeah, I'll also say when I was a graduate assistant, one of our jobs was to manage the players' accounts. So, you know, when you have someone who's doing that, even though, you know, like Snapchat, they think that is gone. Well, it's not gone. So even if they're putting something up on Snapchat that shouldn't be there, then, you know, we have someone who's right there being able to hold them accountable. Even though, you know, we talk about those things with them, they might slip up, you know, they're human. So we have to stay on them and be able, you know, to make sure that they're doing what we've asked them to do. But just getting them to understand that they're also representing the brand. They are the brand. They are the walking and breathing brand. So whether you like it or not, when you decided to join this program, you became the brand. And so that's how you need to be carrying yourself around in the hallways and on campus. And that's how you have to carry yourself on social media. And it's part of being a part of the program. It's part of being the brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the brand for sure. I remember when I was in college, it was a down and back per curse word. So if that just gives anybody ideas, we had a few people like some stuff that got them in a lot of trouble. But that was great answers, great questions, everybody. We just kind of to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you again for joining us. Just to finish off, we like to focus on what we call the points of pride, and just coaches, if you could just really think about like what is one thing that you try getting out of each day when you're doing your job. It could have been the best or the worst day, but what's something you can look back on and really feel proud of? Or if it was a bad day, really feel encouraged of to go into the next day. Coach Hannah, if you kind of want to start us off there, that'd be great.
Sure. So I think for me, it's just some type of positive interaction with one of my players. You know, and I think that whether you're whatever kind of day you had, or whether you won the last game or lost the last game, hopefully you can have some type of positive interaction, whether it could be an individual workout or in practice when they finally get something right that you've been talking about, or maybe you know, just again joking around in the office, or maybe if it's a hard conversation, you know, that they might need something, you know, something's going on at home, and just being able to be there for them. You know, your players, or even your staff, you know, like, you know, my assistants, you might have somebody that relocated just to work with you, or just all the hours that they're putting in, and just having a meaningful conversation with them where, you know, you see how excited they are about something and how invested they are, you know, in your program. Just a meaningful interaction like that every single day, I think is really important. And just whenever I kind of look back, you know, the season, it's going to be a grind regardless. But whenever I look back when I'm really like mentally or emotionally drained, I just realize that I'm having less of those interactions, you know, and maybe I'm becoming too result driven, you know, and I'm going into the office and I'm just getting in front of the computer and watching film, and I'm just going up to the film room just in time for it to start. And then I just walk down and practice just in time to get it going. And I'm not joking around with them in between or asking somebody how they're doing. When I get home at the end of the day, I can feel that. So I think that that's something really important, is just meaningful interactions with those people that you're spending all your time with.
I'll say that the one thing that I want to make sure that I do is grow every day. I want the team to grow every day. And so when I come home and I'm thinking about the day, whether it be a game day or a regular day, that's the question that I'm asking myself. Did we grow in some way? It may have been in our communication. It may have been, the player who never makes a sprint made a sprint, whatever it was that day that made us get better. I'm just hoping for at least one of those things. One of the videos that I show my kids in our class is Admiral McCraven. He has a UT commencement speech about 10 ways to change the world. And there are little tidbits about basically his time as a Navy SEAL and things that they go through every day. And there's different things you pull from that every day. And I always think about, things says like never ringing the bell, never giving up. So, did we give up today? He says make your bed every day, which is pay attention to the details. Did we pay attention to the details? So when I'm sitting there thinking about there are a million different ways we could have grown in that one day. And I want to make sure I can pick out at least one thing one thing positive that we did that day in some way that we grew, that I can make sure I hold on to so I can sleep that night. I want to make sure that we did one thing good and we grew in one way at least that day.
I'm kind of similar in bettering every day. And so finding ways that I can better our program every day and contribute positively to the program and even better myself. I'm a big to-do list person, so I always write out a to-do list, and I have my daily list, and then I have the weekly goals. So I throughout the day I'm always checking that. And then I'm going to focus a little bit because I thought Coach Hayden and Coach Monsa had really good answers for the positives. But if something doesn't go right for me during that day, I'll be laying down trying to go to bed. I'm just my brain is just stuck on something. And I'll be like, all right, Kira, you need to I'm big on prayer. So I'll pray. And then I'm like, all right, you need to list off 10 positive things that happened to you today because you're so negative right now before you go to bed. And it's I'll literally lay there and be like, oh, I'm at 4. Okay, we got to get to 10 somehow. But that just kind of helps my mindset if I'm feeling down about something, or maybe we lost a game, or maybe an interaction, maybe I didn't handle a situation right, or maybe I didn't get something done that I wanted to get done. And that just kind of helps me kind of find peace at the end of the day and carry over to the next day on how I can maybe make that adjustment and how I can bounce back from whatever shortcoming I may have had that day.
That's really good. I think each of you have your own way to do it, but those are all great things that we can take and learn and apply to our lives as well. So thank you for that. We just want to say again, Aaron and I, thank you for taking time to share your insight and your perspective. I think this was amazing. I don't know about everybody else. I feel like this was really good. We're getting really great feedback. But if you guys could drop your contact information in the chat, email, phone number, whatever you're most comfortable with for the people that tuned in to contact you with questions or just want to get on the phone with you, if that's possible as well. But thank you again.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you guys for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so much. You guys are awesome for organizing everything, and you guys have this thing running well.
Thank you.
Yes, keep it going. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for